Hello, my name is Briana Palmer. I'm from Hamilton, Ontario. Currently, I teach at McMaster University in the School of the Arts, mainly printmaking. The exhibition, Traversing the Line with No Fixed Point, is kind of my newest body of work where I've put a whole bunch of things together and really trying to think about how I perceive information. It kind of came about, my work has always been about perception. It's always been about how we look and see things. The work Traversing the Line is really about my childhood upbringing. It was a fantastic childhood, but really thinking about how my privilege and my position in society and looking at who has a seat at the table. I did grow up in BC and forever grateful for that. But it was a small little town where I grew up and there wasn't a lot of diversity. Through time, just taking my own experiences or hearing something, little microaggressions, and start to kind of play with them and start to infuse them into these ideas of perception and how we think and how we move through our society without even knowing it. Because I think a lot of the time it is, if you have nothing to push against, you have no idea what doesn't exist if it's not your own experience. And so I think that's really important, is thinking about our own experiences and then taking that for granted that that's not always everybody else's experience. And I think growing up, I always thought that everybody had the experience of like seeing bears, and that's not necessarily the case. It first came out of my real love for the railway, but then thinking about all the things that the railway represents as well. Who built the railway, the internment camps down in New Denver for the Second World War. And so this kind of history that we forget and we tend not to bring it up because it's a history that we don't really want to talk about. The railway splits the town, the history of the Indigenous communities that were decimated, the genocide, the killing of the buffalo, and the marginalization that they still face because of the railways, because of our society and the way in which we have chosen to move forward. So I think a lot of those things that we have to rectify. And so a lot of that is kind of built into these ideas of the railway. And that we just look at it as this fantastic train that brings two nations together, but it also decimated communities and the environment. So thinking about those other aspects as well. The reason why I picked Traversing the Line with No Fixed Point is this back and forth. And it's kind of, I think, when we're looking at social justice or looking at our own my white fragility, and really trying to own that space and really try to understand there's no fixed point. There's no point where you go, I got it. Every day you have to work at it, and every day you have to kind of go, whoa, am I being just fragile here? And really teasing it, because there's a lot of stuff and you have to unpack it, and sometimes there's no right answer. There's no one way of going about something. So the title kind of came out of this idea where I'm constantly going back and questioning myself, what I think, and then moving forward. So there's always this back and forth. So there's no one position, there's no one fixed point. Coming into this exhibit, I think there's a little bit for everyone. I think I've tried to make it where you could really start to question and look. If you look hard enough, you'll see things that move that you might not have really seen if you don't pay close attention. And I think a lot of those little objects, or the way that they're set up, I've made them where they're kind of like little scenes of society. And if you look at them, you can start really questioning what you're looking at and how you are perceiving that information, and then see if there's another way in which you can enter that, or you can have a conversation about your own privilege or see another way around it. I also made a new piece, and it's an interactive piece with shoes in memory of all the relocated children from the residential schools in Canada. So they're just little woodcut shoes where you can shinkle a pair and put them on the larger pieces. There's one piece that has a small highway that goes up, and that is the Highway of Tears, where there's been countless Indigenous women and girls that have been murdered and missing on that highway. So I think it's really important that we keep that in mind when you're looking at the exhibition, that there is part of it is really about our history and our Canada now. It's still happening today. So